Hi, I'm here to talk to you about a catastrophic event that's happening in the United States today, and it's affecting everybody around us in the American people, and that is the foreclosure crisis. I am a single mom, and I'm a homeowner, and I have gone through 2 years of trying to get modifications with my attorney, and I am working with Wachovia Bank, and Wachovia Bank is not willing to do anything they can to work with me on the mortgages and doing a modification on my property. I am extremely passionate about this because the American dream is for everybody to own their own home. It is affecting me emotionally. I've submitted 7 modification applications. Every time that I submit the applications, I get turned down. Every time I turn the documents in, they get there on time. They turn around, they say the documents are not on time. They say that modification application has changed, that there's a new program. 1 out of 136 homes in the United States is in foreclosure, and 27% of the mortgages in the United States are upside down. It is affecting people in such an emotional way that I don't think that if the banks don't do something and they start helping their own people, it's going to destroy the American people. I'm as mad as hell about what is happening in the United States with the foreclosure crisis and how many people are losing their homes, and that the banks are not willing to work with us. The Attorney General in the state of California handed down a $2 billion settlement against Wachovia to reimburse the people of the losses of their homes in foreclosure. The modifications do not exist. The banks do not want to give modifications to any of the people because it's easier for them to sell the properties to investors in a foreclosure and an auction rather than try to work with their own people. Eventually, if we don't stop this problem and the banks aren't willing to work with us, we will end up having most of the American people not being able to own their own homes, and this is escalating. It's not getting any better. The modification programs that the president has talked to the American people about does not exist. The banks are not willing to work with you. I have been extremely tenacious in fighting. I have applied for modifications 7 times and I have been turned down. First they tell me I make too much money, then they tell me I don't make enough money. Then they say that they need to include the child support, then they say they don't want to include the child support. Then they say that the mortgage payment has to be 28% of your income. Then they change it to 30% of your income. My documents were 170 pages when they were submitted on the 6th modification application. It has caused me so much stress and anxiety that there are people that are committing suicide. There are people that are having nervous breakdowns because they have worked so hard all their lives for their homes, and they are being turned down and they are being destroyed. The lives of the American people are being destroyed. We need to do something about this. We need to stop the banks. The government, the president, the people in Congress, whether you're Republican or Democrat, I do not believe that they care about what's going on, because money is greed and greed is money, and it's all about the money. And I believe that when they're sitting at their $1,000 plate dinners, they've got their money, they've got somebody in their back pocket that is watching for the foreclosures so they can send somebody out to buy their homes and take them away from us. The American dream is to have your own home. When I was a child, I used to look at the American flag and I was very proud. Now I'm not proud because we're not taking care of our own people. I don't know what else I can do to try to get Wachovia to work with me, but the loans that were sold to me have been declared illegal by the federal government. They are illegal loans. They knew when they were selling you these loans that they were illegal. They set up a pick-a-pay payment, and the way that the payments are set up is that eventually, because they were on adjustable rates, they escalated to the point where people would never be able to afford to pay off their house. They were paying into something where they were not being able to pay off the principal on the property. And what has happened to me is that I think the straw that broke the camel's back was on my 7th application for modification. The banks, my negotiator, asked if I had anybody in my family that had died and would I be able to produce a death certificate. And their concern about that was that they wanted to be able to find out if I was going to be coming into any kind of inheritance, so that they could see if there was any other money that they could get from me. I have fought, and I'm going to keep fighting, and we need to change this as soon as possible. Something needs to be done. We need to start a revolution in this country to stop the banks from the foreclosures and taking people's homes away. When I applied for the last application, while I was in the middle of a modification on one of my properties, they had already set a foreclosure date. Then I was told by Wachovia Bank that you could not apply for modification on more than one property at a time. So what we did, my attorney actually went and filed a TRO, which is a temporary restraining order, against Wachovia Bank to hold them from selling the property. Now I'm applying for a modification for the 6th time on my other property, and every time you submit a document, they either tell you that the document is not in on time when they actually have received it. They have either been FedEx, they've been delivered to their office, they've been faxed to their office, and then they say that they don't receive it. They tell you that they've tried to contact you when they haven't tried to contact you. You get documents from 5 different people within the same bank, and nobody knows who's talking to who. The 7th floor is not talking to the 1st floor. There's no communication between any of the people that are working on the modifications. There's no communication, there's no guideline. When the president talked about the programs and helping people with the foreclosure, nothing has happened. There's nothing existing. There is no changes, and the rate of foreclosures is constantly escalating in the United States. You're putting people out of their homes. It's causing a tremendous amount of stress. The time and energy that I have spent writing out papers, sending in documents, copies of my electric bill, copies of my phone bill, copy of my bank statement, what my expenses are. First they say that I don't qualify for modification because it has to be 28% of the income. Then you submit that, then they say you make too much money. Then they say it has to be 34% of the income, but they're not including the child support. Then when they include the child support, they say that I'm making too much money. There is no guideline. What they're trying to do is intimidate everybody to the point where you just say, you know what, the hell with it, I'm going to give up, and I am not going to give up. I feel that I'm here to speak for the American people, to speak for the families and the people that I know that are in such distress and there's no catching up. Nobody's going to get any better. It's not going to get any better unless the banks are willing to work with the people. So when I filed the TRO, which was a temporary restraining order to stop the sale of the house, Wachovia Bank moved it to federal court. And what they did was, by moving it to federal court, what they did was they bought themselves time, and they moved it into federal court so that it would be distracted so that they could sell the house out from under me. There's no compassion. There's no understanding. I always believe that if you work really hard for something, there is a reward in what you work for. I have started another business. I've cut back in every way possible. I'm doing everything that I can do. I can't go to the grocery store. I can't buy anything for myself. I can't buy anything for my kids. I'm a middle-aged single mom, and I've worked so hard for everything I have. And my houses are there as my retirement. One of my properties I've been paying into for 23 years. I never missed a payment for the first 22 years, but the banks will not even consider you for a modification unless you don't make the payments. You have to show them that you can't afford to make the payment in order to get them to even talk to you or listen to you or even possibly negotiate with you. And what they're doing is illegal. Wachovia is one of the worst banks that you have to work with. They will not give you an inch. They will not talk to you. Every time you try to do something with them, they tell you that they want something else. They say, well, we want this, we want that. 170 pages of documents were submitted. And while the documents were being submitted, they had already had a foreclosure date on the property. So I did have to set up to have a temporary restraining order to stop that, to not be able to sell the house. But because it's all about the money, the government and the people in Congress know that they can make money, and so they act like they really care, and they, blow a bunch of smoke, but there's nothing going on and nothing is changing. Imagine if you were in a position where you were making a payment on your house and something catastrophic happened to your family. Somebody got sick, somebody died, you lost your job. You would think that the banks would work with you, but they're not going to work with you. And they're going to intimidate you, and they're going to push you into a hole, and eventually you're just going to give up. Well, I am not giving up. I will not give up. If I have to, I will chain myself to the front of Wells Fargo Bank, and I will fight, and I will draw the attention to help all of my friends, all the families, and all the people that I know that have worked their whole life to save their home. My brother lost his home. My sister and her husband lost their house. And they don't even give you an opportunity to work with them. And they don't care, and it needs to be stopped. And we need to pay attention to this. As a mother, it's very important to me to spend quality time with my children. I'm tired of making excuses to my children because I have to fill out documents. These modifications have taken up a year and a half of my time. Mommy, can we go to the park? Mommy, can we go to the movies? Can we do this? No, you can't bother me because I got to fax this. I got to copy this. I got to find this receipt. I've got to send this in. I've got to call these people. So much of my quality time in my life has been taken up by submitting for modifications that actually it's a fantasy, because they don't even look at the documents. They don't even pay attention, and they have no intentions of giving you the modification. I'm just asking for a chance. I was asking them, please just drop the payment down, $400 a month. Years ago you could do a refi, and you could take money out of the house. You could take money out if you had equity, if you were having hard times. But they don't give you any leniency. You're working for nothing. It's a fantasy. And everybody that's out there that's trying to do the modification, they lead you to believe that they're going to get it. They have no intention of giving you a modification. Wachovia and Wells Fargo Bank are criminal. And they are, I don't want to say what I want to say, but they have no compassion, and it's all about the money. So if you're out there trying to get a modification, you need to stick to your guns, and you need to push them. And you need to push them and push them and push them. And when you think that you're going to get a modification, they will find another excuse and tell you why you can't get a modification. So just so that you know, when you see all these commercials about people that are trying to get their modifications and they're going to help you with it, I really believe the only way that you can do it is if you have a very ambitious attorney. I'm not really one of these people that believes in, you know, having an attorney, but I believe that the only way that you're going to do that is to intimidate them by having an attorney, retaining an attorney to help you to fight these banks. I think all of the parents out there and families agree that the most important part of their life is their family and their children. And my homes are my investments. They're something that I worked for very hard for half of my life. If I lose these properties because of the illegal actions from the Wachovia Bank, I was encouraged to set up these loans with my properties. And millions of people across the United States were encouraged to set up these loans with the banks. There's quite a few banks that are doing this, but the most notorious bank is the Wachovia.
I know. Okay.
The most notorious of all the banks is Wachovia, which is Wells Fargo Bank. If they are not willing to work with me, I've been able to make serious cutbacks in my life of things that I don't need and adjust my life within my lifestyle in order to be able to work with the modification with them. If they don't do something and I lose my homes, those homes are my retirement. The money from the properties of those homes that I've worked for my whole life will help to put my daughters through school, will help to take care of them during the hard times. And I don't believe that at this time in my life I will ever be able to recover. I will never be able to get back the time that I put into the investment of these properties. And life is too short. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that know that the most important thing is your family. And my children are very important to me, and I want to be able to provide for them. And I'm very uneasy, I'm very insecure, and very concerned about whether I will be able to take care of them. If there isn't a lot of work out there right now because of the poor economy, I'm willing to work as hard as I can to be able to recover. But I need the bank to work with me and give me a chance.